This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the town of North Haven.
Good evening. Welcome to the January 2020 meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners for the town of North Haven. My name is Larry Lazaroff. I'm chairman. To my left is Robin Wilson, our vice chairman. To her left is Bob Hannon, who is a new member of the commission. So let me just say welcome to Bob first, and let me tell you a little bit about Bob. Bob has been a 2-year Inland Wetland Commission member, but most importantly, he's been a 30-year member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, with 21 years as chairman. It's quite impressive, so thank you for your service to the community. His wife, Laura Jean, is our town treasurer, and he has 2 sons that are both police officers. So with that being said, Bob, welcome to the commission.
Thank you.
To my right,
I'm sorry. No, welcome, Bob. Welcome aboard.
To my right is Mark Calafiore, the secretary of the commission, and to his right is Alden Mead. So everybody welcome Bob.
All right, Bob.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 17th meeting, both regular and executive session?
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Approval of the monthly reports for December of 2019?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mark, correspondences?
Mr. Chairman, I just got a couple pieces of correspondence right here, 2 letters specifically. So one is from a business owner on Universal Drive. He owns the Sunoco gas station, and he would like to specifically thank Detective Lee Capazzo for a job well done, and the entire police department. But I guess they made a swift arrest, and he was very diligent and swift in his work, and very quick in his response. So good work to the Detective Bureau of the Police Department here in North Haven, of course, and specifically Detective Lee Capazzo, who he highlights here a couple times here. Good. So good job, Lee. And the second letter I got here it's from a resident, Pamela Parella. She lives on Trumbull Place, and it's maybe something we should take up. I don't know if we can do it right now or not, but it seems more of like she thanks the chief for being responsive to her request, I guess, for some no-through truck signs on Trumbull Place at both ends. Apparently, they haven't had any of these signs for years, and the chief and his staff did some research, and they couldn't find when the last time they had signs up there, but she believes some signs were up there. So from what I can understand, I just read this a few minutes ago, but apparently the chief said that, it would be something for us to take care of course. So I guess she's requesting that there's two no-through truck signs, be placed at both ends of the entrance of Trumbull Place. So I don't know if this is the right time to
I think we can work on this.
So entertain this.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's a small piece of strip of street.
Right, and that's right by the green, correct?
Right above the top of the green, right, where the church is there. There's about 8 houses maybe there, 6-8 houses there.
And her point in the letter too was that the road was not made for the trucks, and they've already had a gas line break.
We don't need a study, do we, for this? From Sergeant DePasquale, or?
Well, I think whatever you act on, I would imagine we would need something to forward to the state DOT. The state traffic commission will, after being notified by the local traffic authority for speed limits and for no-through trucks.
Okay.
So that is something. I suppose if you wanted to act on it, you could, and then we would just send them her letter. But it probably
advice
doesn't hold as much weight as perhaps if we were to look at it and say there is a problem, there isn't a problem. I think when I talked to her, it's not a street that trucks normally use. I think what's happened with that street, and the way she explained it to me on the telephone anyway, was because St. John Street's already no through trucks, right? So people sometimes with GPS, the truck drivers in particular, they'll go down Washington Avenue, perhaps onto Church Street, and then when they go around the town green, they realize this isn't my route. So they tend to either turn around at the end of Trumbull Street here, which is, it's a fairly wide intersection, so you can turn your truck. And she says sometimes trucks will go up over Trumbull Place. Okay, I think it's an isolated event. It's by the time we get made aware of a truck using the street, it's going to be gone. It's almost going to be unenforceable.
And if they're going up there and they're taking a left onto St. John's, they've already broken the law at that point anyway.
Right, but they wouldn't know that.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, I think it's an isolated type of something that's isolated. I think if you were to grant something like that, or the state would say, yeah, okay, you shouldn't have trucks up there, it's pretty much just going to pacify the complaint, but it's probably not going to be enforced,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not that regular, it's not a truck route. You know what I'm saying?
no, it's a very small street at the top of the grade.
Somebody makes a
so-
mistake, the truck driver makes a
Yeah.
mistake, and he goes to turn around, and then sometimes they don't turn around, and they just say, oh, I'll just shoot right over the top, and I'll take another left, and I'll go down to Washington.
Right, and you're thinking it's more of an isolated incident
Right.
that trucks go, yeah, I would think so too, just,
Right.
it'd be hard for a truck to just to get up there, so it's like
Right.
I mean, do we want more signs up there? I don't know. I mean, I'll just defer to you, or,
And you've actually done the research, you found no previous signage posted?
Couldn't find any no-through truck for up there.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You
Suggestions?
spoke to the woman who was concerned.
Yeah, and I told her, I said,
Yeah.
listen, I said, if
She understands your perspective.
I think she understands it, and I told her, I says, if you like, you can write to the traffic authority,
Yeah.
and they'll take it under consideration. I says, to be honest with you, I think it's probably a 50-50 coin toss whether or not they go for it. You know, but again, if a truck goes up there, and somebody calls,
by the time you guys.
Right, right. No, I
things
understand
on
that part.
911, yeah.
unless she wants to give
So-
a statement and
No.
identifies the truck number, we're not gonna go out and
Right.
You know.
So we still can't we can still authorize the signs though? Or it has to go through?
I mean, you could,
We
if you want,
could,
but
but-
again, I think it would just,
I mean, the strip is so small, it's just, I mean, to put signage on both ends for a very, very isolated incident, that's gonna be barely enforceable, and again, if somebody calls,
Right.
that truck's gonna be on 91 heading to Middletown. So I would.
Here also, right?
Okay, so let's hold off on that and see what happens if there's
It's up
further
to- yeah, what do
complaints.
you wanna do?
and,
Wanna just hold off on
let's
it?
off and see what happens, yeah. And if she calls back with
she
further
notices
concerns
more,
and
yeah, if she
notices
sees
more
more
trucks
happen.
coming on there, then we'll have to address it, that's all.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
I'll go with
And that's it.
Larry, yep.
To Chairman's report. I've already welcomed Bob, so once again, Bob, welcome. Just to make an announcement, I did attend the pension board meeting on December 27th, and the fund is in excellent shape because the market's in excellent shape. We have a civilian police academy beginning in this town, and I'll let the chief talk about that in his report. However, I would encourage all commissioners here, once there's a firm start date, to try to attend at least the first meeting so we can be introduced to the students. And I'm sure part of their progress will be informing them as to what we do as a commission, our purpose. So if we can all show up once we get that date, that'd be nice, if it's possible. Let's talk briefly about the possibility of getting a new dog, because our dog has been retired. And what are the possibilities, Chief, of getting a dog to replace the retired dog?
what type of dog are you looking for?
I think we're looking to replace, I believe, with the same type you just had, right? The golden,
Well, a drug dog.
well, drug dog, yeah, but a sniffer, as they say, right?
I think, well, I think when I mentioned it last month, you know, my thought was to kind of put it off a little bit longer. This way, the town wouldn't incur any type of an expense when both dogs perhaps retire at the same time. So it's almost, if we could rotate one in, rotate one out, eventually. So that was my thought on that. I think you get your bigger bang for your buck with another shepherd that is cross-trained with narcotics.
Okay.
I would think that before you would entertain another lab, that the commission members, perhaps individually, would meet with the former handler, which is Alan Cantelli, and to get a real good understanding of his day-to-day training that is required of the retriever, the lab, as opposed to the shepherd.
Okay.
It's very, very labor intensive. As I said before, the lab is almost like having a 2-year-old with you for 8 or 9 years that never grows up. All right? It needs that much attention every day. And when it comes time for the handler to either take vacation, go out of state, you either have to board the dog with the Connecticut State Police, because now there's a special feeding that goes on with these dogs, or you have to have somebody here that was a former handler, who knows how to take care of that dog. So, if you're going to look for another dog, my suggestion is perhaps a shepherd. I think you can have it a tracking dog, a patrol dog, as well as one that's cross-trained. Maybe it doesn't do the extensive narcotics work as the lab does, but it will do. It'll be sufficient.
So if we went that route and we come to an agreement on that, how long would that possibly take, and the cost of that, or?
Well, you have the cost of the dog, you have the cost of the outfitting of the cruiser, and then you have the training, so,
But the cruiser we have from the previous dog, don't we?
no.
That-
That car's being traded out.
Gotcha.
That car's a mess.
And you can't retro, they don't?
No.
Okay.
And it's a different type of a cage setup. The lab is pretty much one that can hop from the front to the back. But the shepherd, you need to keep that animal caged
Contained, okay.
and contained in the car. So outfitting the car, you're probably looking at $20,000.
Okay. I mean, what are your feelings towards this? I mean, I personally think we should get another dog. I don't think we should wait 1.5 years, personally. You know, if we wait a few months, whatever it may be, to do our due diligence, but I think we need to continue to have a second dog on this squad. Thoughts, anybody?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the dog served us well, right, over the last several years.
They have, and the only thing is, I wouldn't want to just rush into it.
Right.
And just to make a cold or hard
Right.
decision. I think that's something you should really look at before that.
So when our last dog came on board, what was the gap of time between, lapse in time between new versus?
Oh, you had 2 different types, though. You had 2 different animals. You had one that was, you have one that's a shepherd, which is a patrol dog, which is a little bit more aggressive usually than the other one. The other one is, you've seen the other one.
Yeah.
You just walk in and they'll fall asleep on the
Exactly.
floor.
We picked that dog up when Zeus passed away. Also.
Right, so we picked up the other shepherd when we lost the first shepherd. And so my only thought was to maybe not, somewhere along the line, you're going to end up having to replace both dogs in a very, very close proximity. The two shepherds, if you were to get another shepherd right now. The other one's only like 2 years old, 3 years old. Yeah. So I mean, if
And
you
how-
gave it a year, he's 4 years old, now you bring in the new one. By the time he gets to be 4, the other one is maybe 8. He's ready to rotate out. Now you bring in another one.
Shepherds.
Yeah,
How long have we had the shepherd?
2 years.
Yeah, I think he's 3.5.
He's probably 3 years old,
Yeah.
and he's probably been on patrol for 2 years.
And are we losing anything by, I mean, there was something to be gained by having the drug dog that could do, I think it was 7 different drugs or something.
Yeah,
And-
and the other one does maybe 4, I think. Yeah.
But like you said, they're 2 totally different personalities, so I don't know if there's anything to be lost by not having one of each, or...
Well, the only thing, like I said, the lab, it is very, very labor intensive. you have to make sure you have somebody that's going to be committed to it.
Do you have somebody you think that's willing to step up to take over for the new dog?
As far as a lab, I would be very, very cautious because the new generation is not the type that you and I would be locked in on and say, okay, I'm gonna be with this dog for the next 8 or 9 years. I think the younger generation, regardless of their police officers, or teachers, or firemen, or, sanitation, or stock, they sell in stocks and bonds, it's a different generation. I don't think they have that commitment really to lock in.
The discipline.
You know what I'm saying? They're quick to shift gears.
Do you think there's not really enough activity also relative to the expense and the labor for a lab compared to maybe have more activity for a shepherd?
Right, and that's a very good point as well. To put another a shepherd out there to do any type of tracking. I mean, we had somebody yesterday was a juvenile that had some issues, and we're out looking for him, and we were calling in the dog to come in on time, and fortunately we located the individual before.
Yeah.
But the lab's not going to go out and find that person.
That's what I wondered,
shepherd.
yeah.
So there's probably more work for the shepherd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
In
I, so
our-
there's
in
more
our
work.
town?
And the kind of work the shepherd would do
Yeah.
would be more protective
Yeah.
and useful to help people. And also, I know it's not only labor intensive for the lab, but probably the lab is not as happy a dog with the kind of food he gets, and it's
Right.
food oriented.
Right. I mean, has anybody approached you as far as they would have an interest?
No. Is it possible to put it out there in the squad or to see if anybody would be interested if we were to get another dog?
Yeah, I mean, we could put something out.
I think that would be maybe a good idea to see the interest maybe
Well,
in.
what kind of dog, again, what?
Chihuahua.
But it's a good point.
Yeah.
If somebody says, wait a minute, I'm gonna have a lab, I'm gonna have this dog that's like a 2-year-old that never grows up for 8, 9 years, and I can't go on vacation, I gotta worry, well, not they can't go on vacation, but they have to be concerned that they have to have some type of boarding for the dog, special boarding.
And that's not the case with the shepherd?
Not as much, because the shepherd needs to be exercised, obviously needs to be daily, it's gotta be groomed, it's gotta be exercised, it's gonna eat on a normal, diet.
So with the lab, it's almost like you withhold food to make the dog incentivized. Would that be correct? And so it's tough training for the dog too.
Okay.
And with the shepherd, you could use it for a missing person, but with the lab, not so much. And what you're saying, I think, is not to not do it, but maybe to look it over for sometime between now and a year.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's other varieties of dogs, probably not, but other than shepherds that could be
I think
cross-trained.
before you post it, to get somebody's hopes up,
Mhm.
you have
Yeah.
to decide what kind you want to go with, and,
Do you think Kelly would be willing to come in and talk to us as a group and explain?
I think
or-
it would be best if he talked to you one-on-one.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it'd be best if he talked to you one-on-one.
Okay, so I'll reach out to him possibly to have a conversation, and if anybody else would like to, we can work on that as well. And we'll see what happens, we'll talk about it next month.
But in any event, we still have one dog right now, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
Is that
When
reasonable,
does that
everybody?
dog work?
Yep.
Days, evenings, or is it? It is.
So I'll reach out to her. Can you have Alan maybe give me a call?
Yep.
Okay, great,
Sure can. He works days, so he
Perfect.
might even be able to stop by the shop.
perfect. All right, good. Just as a point of interest, Mark and I visited a resident on the Ridge Road, in the Ridge Road area. Apparently, they had called our first selectman to complain about the issues of speeding in front of their home, and Mr. Frieda gave her Commissioner Calafiore's number to reach out to. He let me know about it, and both he and I went to the house and talked to the people. And we were there for a while, talking with them, their concerns about the kids and the speeding and this and that, the whole bit. And I think that, and discussing this with Mark later on, that their concern was not with the quality of policing in the town, because they're very satisfied, obviously, with the department. They're just concerned about the lack of visibility of the cars going around the neighborhoods, and especially at night with the blue lights on, just to show them that we're out here and we're protecting the streets, not just when called, but on a normal basis, obviously. So is there a possibility that we can get more patrols out there? They're working anyway, just driving around versus waiting for, I don't know what the actual schedule is, I'm not a cop.
Yeah.
So when they're not on call, what are they usually doing? They're hanging, they drive, right?
They do neighborhood patrols.
Okay. I will say this, not to interrupt you, but in the last several days, I have seen a lot more squad cars out, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you only have a fixed number of patrols that are out there. That number hasn't really changed much over the course of the last 40 years. And I think what you'll find is they move around, and you're not going to find people that are actually standing in the windows looking for a police car to go by all the time.
Right.
Our cars, our cruisers, they blend in a lot with other cars now. They're not like the old Crown Vics. They're black and whites, but they do tend to blend in.
Especially at night.
And they do blend in, and it's like that for a reason though as well.
Right, but do they usually have the light bar on or the blue light?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
Okay.
Maybe
Maybe if we could increase number of the hours of using the light.
Can you turn the light on more? I guess we could.
Yeah.
But again, what brings an awareness to some, the good, it also brings an awareness to the criminal element as well. So if you're out looking for somebody, you don't want your blue light on.
Right, no, I know, I understand that, yeah,
So
obviously.
I think.
But if you're looking at a sector over here for someone bad, you're not gonna have your blue light on, obviously, but if you're driving around over here.
We do have some that just drive around with it, and it looks like a Christmas tree all lit up. Sometimes we do have that.
Okay,
Right,
so,
because we're just thinking, because we're talking to some residents up there, and some, want some signage up there, and, it's, I know we tend to be reluctant to do that because it doesn't control speed, it's supposed to control traffic flow and so on and so forth. So I guess in lieu of putting stop signs up there, which I'm always open to doing that, but I've been up and down that street, probably 100 times since that meeting a few months back. And, I told these residents there that, a stop sign probably won't alleviate the issues that they have there, and certainly we're not going to do speed bumps or anything like that. But so like me and the chairman were talking about, in lieu of doing that again, just, some high visibility and some lights and some, maybe some enforcement action, even if it's just a verbal, just to slow the traffic down. So
We've had
because
a lot
apparently,
of enforcement up there.
right,
Almost to a point where we had to pull them off of there because we're neglecting everyone else.
right,
I understand that they have an issue up there.
Right.
Not that they have an issue, I think what we discussed months ago was, in the course of like 20 years, minimal accidents. We're talking about a horrific accident that happened where somebody lost a life.
right.
And that was really, really an isolated event. But other than that, the street is fairly safe. But you gotta remember, these people chose to live and buy a home on a collector roadway. All right, it's a collector roadway. We have state highways, which are our main arteries. The Dixwell Avenues, the Washington Avenues, State Streets, Middletown Avenues. And then in from there, we have our collector roadways, the people that want to get off those, and then eventually get into neighborhoods. And now you got your collector roadways, Ridge Road, Hartford Turnpike, for that neighborhood, Pool Road, Spring Road, all those streets. You got to remember, these are high-traffic roadways. These people chose to live there. Some of us chose to live on other roads that don't have traffic like that. It's unfortunate. We'll do our best we can.
Oh, I know.
Can
We always do.
Can we increase the visibility? Sure we can.
Good.
But, you can't turn around and have somebody in a neighborhood, in a small group of people, paint with such a broad brush and say that nothing's being done, or there's an accident. I think that's unfair, and I think the data over 20 years will prove them wrong.
Right, so
But we'll do our best, just so we
That's-
don't
that's
argue
fine.
with you and we don't argue with them.
Right, that's
You know?
fine. If we get higher visibility, that's all we're looking for, and see what happens.
right. Did you, just entertain one more thought. Did you ever think about, maybe I spoke to you about this or not, but maybe rumble strips on the side of the road, is that possible, or would
I
it
think what we
just?
talked about was perhaps a rumble strip up there in the center.
So that's a possibility, or the lines, some 3D lines that make you, it's an illusion, makes you slow down.
Well,
Did we ever do that?
I
Or?
think that what happens up there is the way that road is designed up there, the width of it,
Yeah,
it goes from, it's wide and it's narrow and it's wide and it's narrow.
So is that-
So if you ever were to maybe do something like that, you might even get dizzy.
right, all right.
But the first selectman and I talked about the center of the road, being a rumble strip to at least keep people in their own lanes. And that's one start. If somebody starts to go the other way, I think the center of the road is important as well.
Because there was a recent accident, I guess, with and I guess why this got regenerated was there was a bicyclist that got hit. But so in your belief and in your opinion, just having additional stop signs, would that have helped, or probably
No,
not?
because if you put additional stop signs up there, number one, you'd have to probably put one at each corner, I'm
Right.
guessing. So now that's gonna cause the bicyclists to stop at every stop
Right.
sign, because they have to obey every traffic law that the motor vehicle does. So the bicyclist's gonna have to stop, and the bicyclists have to go. School buses going up and down that street are gonna have to stop and go. The more stop and go you cause, the greater chance you are of increasing an accident.
Yeah, I don't think stop signs are called for at all.
No, yeah,
And you got a fire service up there too, that's gonna use it.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've been up and down the street, probably 100 times, and I'm, as an ex-police officer, I think I know, a lot about these traffic issues, but I went up and down there, and it would be hard to sell a stop sign in some areas, because it just doesn't jive with the way the roads are. But suffice it to say, to slow people down, we can get some increased police patrols up there.
We can,
The
officers that are up there, we can have them turn on their blue lights.
Yeah.
just from visibility,
We can even turn on the red and blue one and
Yeah.
let it spin. So
and if people, it is people do go quickly there, just stop them, and, enforcement, or,
Okay, so I'm not just talking about Ridge Road, though. I'm talking about the entire community
Yeah,
outside.
that's just up, yeah. But we're just up there, so that's
Okay.
one issue.
Let's
Anyways,
move forward, okay.
Is it worth entertaining looking at the center rumble strip at all? or-
Yeah, and I think that the first selectman was on board with that. That was, originally it was gonna be just from Dixwell to Homewood Avenue. And then we had decided last year when they repaved it, that they would take it from Dixwell and go right over to.
That would be
To skip, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that going to be done, or?
I will check with him
Okay.
and Public Works to find out if they actually did anything with that.
Okay.
I know it was a little expensive, but
Mhm.
he was willing to step out on it.
Okay, good, thank you. I'd like to congratulate Officer Carter, who graduated from the Police Academy and is now the FTO, and I guess Chief will talk about that, and congratulate Officer Matteo for finishing his FTO in December. And one last thing, I'd like to remind people that when there's a parking ban in snowstorms or for whatever reason, please try to obey the parking ban, because there were many cars on the roads, and the snow, even though it wasn't a lot, was pushed in bad spots, people couldn't get around, and so please pay attention to the bands. They're for everybody's benefit. That's really all I have for Chairman's report.
Actually, can I just echo what you're saying?
Sure.
While you're just saying this, I had a couple of residents actually who talked about the parking ban, and how do we enforce, or how do we post the parking ban? Is it on social media? How do you guys do that?
We
'Cause-
we put it out, the town puts it out, and we notify the media. So it goes to,
Because there's no signage or anything like that, but it's just, is it on your website? How do they, if I'm a resident on one road and there's a parking ban I'm not sure about, how do I check that
It'll go
out?
out on Channel 8, Channel 3. It'll go out on our social webpage. It'll go on the town's social webpage, and
So it's out there?
it's out.
I saw all
So I had a
4 of
couple
those,
people
so-
that were like, "Oh, we didn't hear about it, how we know about it," so I wasn't sure, so thanks for bringing it up, so check on the social page, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Chief's report.
Okay, just as a quick PSA, as far as last year, we did have a significant decrease in the vehicle burglaries. I know we talk about them every month, but it was nearly a 50% drop in the calendar year, which is pretty good. So obviously our message to lock your cars apparently is resonating with some people. But we don't want to let our guard down. We want you to remain vigilant. So, keep doing that. As far as some of the others that follow some of the other community social pages, there was something recently this weekend about some suspicious activity at one of the coffee shops. It was Dunkin' Donuts, where somebody noticed 3 or 4 like middle-aged or middle school age girls that were approached by a middle-aged male subject. As the investigation turned, we determined that it was actually one of the parents of the girl. There was, no one was endangered, but, it's one of those things where we do appreciate the counter help at Dunkin' Donuts for, seeing something that just didn't look quite right, and she gave us a call, and we looked into it, and it turned out to be, it didn't turn out to be anything, really. So that was something that was good. As far as our budget, we continue to stay within our expectations. Just so that the new commissioner knows, we kind of, we self-impose an allowance, so to speak, on a monthly basis. We try to stay within 8.333 a month. You multiply that times 12, it's 100%. So some months we're just under it, sometimes we're just over it, but that's our target number. Right now we're under, so that's always a good thing. So that's what we try to do. Speaking of the budget, we were just notified just this past couple of weeks that Post, the police academy, is going to increase our recruit training. It's going to go up to $3,800 per recruit.
What is it now?
It was $1,500, and they,
More than doubled.
yeah.
Wow.
So this is something that we weren't really expecting. It wasn't something that we budgeted for in next year's budget, but I imagine we'll probably have at least one officer go through the academy next year sometime.
So there are other academies that we've used in the past, aren't there?
We have, and but we got to pay them as well.
Are they the same price?
They're satellite, but knowing that Post is getting $3,800, my guess is that they're gonna raise their vig as well.
Okay.
It's gonna go. So my thought is to, I'll reach out to Town Hall sometime between now and our budget workshop, which is on the
February 19th.
19th of February. And we'll see if we can't get that modified somehow. Maybe we can throw in maybe one, and if we go through 2 or 3, we'll find the money somewhere along the line for that. But if we can at least budget one officer going through the academy every year, that'd probably be investigate.
Okay.
And I went out of turn here a little bit, maybe not. Benary Scholarship. I have 3 officers that are requesting some scholarship consideration this month. That would be Sergeant Cliff Hill for 2 graduate classes, Sergeant Joe Wozniak for 1 graduate class, and Officer Rich DePalma for 2 undergraduate classes. And for the benefit of some of those that are watching, the Walter T. Benary Scholarship was named for Chief Benary, who had served in the capacity of a police officer for the town for 44 years. And upon his passing in 1990, a scholarship fund was established in his memory, and the police officers from town here who pursue post-secondary education are eligible for a $250 stipend for each of the college level classes that they complete. So I know sometimes people say, well, what is it?
Yeah, sure.
That's what it is.
Right.
It's a separate fund.
It's a separate fund. It's not part of the budget, but it's something that, it's a good thing. And I have the 3 officers that are looking for some type of assistance there. So I would
Okay.
ask if we could perhaps have a motion.
Do we have a motion to,
Well, how much is it for each
250.
officer?
250.
per class?
$250 per class.
So $750 for a total of 3?
Correct.
I make a motion.
Go ahead.
One more thing. How much money is in the Benary Fund? Do you know?
I don't have the exact number right now, but I know that in checking with finance, they said that there's
Sufficient funds in there? All right, I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Have they had any fundraisers for that in quite some time? I don't recall.
We probably should have one soon.
Yeah.
I know that the PBA makes a donation on an annual basis. That oftentimes cover the, what we spend.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to host something, we'll be more than happy to.
To attend?
Yeah. No, we could work together on something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't recall the last time there was a Benary fundraiser. I think the last time was at the Rustic Oak,
Right,
okay? And that's a long time ago. We were all there, so.
right. That was probably about 9 years ago.
Oh, probably more than that, I think, but okay.
No, I think that's when I first became the chief over
Yeah,
there.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's maybe take a look at it, because, we're obviously encouraging the education, and we don't want to run out of funds, obviously, either.
Right.
So let's see if we can put something together. Be good.
Okay, all right.
We'll put Bob on that with you. He's a new guy.
Maybe something in the late spring or early summer.
Sure.
When the weather breaks, we can do something.
Sure.
Has it always been 250, Chief?
Yes. Yeah. It's good.
Okay.
It's a good number.
Could you
Just
just,
like a copay, because they're also investing on their own.
Correct.
So they're not getting
Right.
something that they're encouraged to take for
Right.
nothing. It's like a copay for medicine.
Right.
So we're just helping them do something that they're helping themselves even more.
could you do us a favor, though, and check and see how much,
Sure.
not to,
Yeah, no, I could let you know.
just let us know how much money's in there.
Sure.
Do us a favor. Thanks.
As far as our sick and accidents on the job, I'll bring that up into the executive section as far as uniform services, ISU. We did have one residential burglary on the west side of town. Now, you gotta remember, the last time we met was December 17th, so we're talking about a little bit more than a month. So, one residential burglary on the west side of town. There was a cut screen to a porch. And then we did have 5 commercial burglaries, and a solid suspect's been identified, at least one of them, and we think we're gonna tie him into some of the others. We had 2 street robberies since our last meeting on the 17th. One involved a street fight at the theater, in which an iPhone was forcibly taken. And the second robbery involved a drug buy that went bad in one of the local parks. So, not going in and robbing stores. They're
Robbing each other.
They're robbing each other in this in the parking lot. I'm not trying to dismiss the importance of that, but it's, We had 4 overdoses, one that was fatal, one that involved officers deploying a Narcan type to resuscitate the patient or the complainant. We did have a few car burglaries. All of them were unlocked. There were 5 of them in that 5.5-week period. Not a lot, but still lock your cars. 3 vehicles thefts. One with the car that was unlocked with the keys in it, and the other 2 were actually left unlocked with the motor running. So don't leave your cars running with your keys in it. And that was over at Cumberland Farms on State Street, like at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, And we talked last month about the massage parlor that closed, and if you recall, I mentioned that these establishments are like weeds in your lawn, and they pop up, and sure enough, they're going to be back open probably next week. So we'll keep our eye on that one. Support services and traffic. In your package, you'll see that Sergeant T. Pascal had put together a report. That was from a resident from Canton Lane that had requested some consideration for speed bumps and a 10-mile-an-hour speed zone. So after monitoring that for 9 days, I don't believe that there's sufficient data to make any traffic changes there.
I agree 100%.
And Sergeant D. Pascal's report is included, and I would concur with his findings.
The average speed is what, 13 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And do you want me to respond to her? Because I think she wrote to the
Sure.
commission.
You can respond to it, sure.
Okay. And there's also one in your packet, a letter from a resident from the Lock Drive area, Stanton Road, and Bridgeview, requested stop sign at Lock Drive in Spring, and an additional stop sign at Lock Drive in Stanton. We're gonna have to look at that to get back to you probably next month. There should be one already at Spring and Lock.
Of course, yeah.
So I think that's just a matter of if it's missing, put it back up. But the other one may need some
Okay.
added look.
Well, the sergeant does a great job. I tell you, his reports are concise, and just well done. I compliment him each time I see one, and I will do it again. It's just, he does a great job for us and the community.
I'll second that. Very good.
As you mentioned earlier, as far as our records, professional standards, Officer Carter, she did graduate from post last week. She has started her mandatory 10-week training program. We look forward to her getting off on her own soon. Officer Mateo, as you mentioned, he completed his field training right after Christmas, so he's on his own, he's doing solo patrol. The third of the 4 new dispatchers has been brought in. He's fitting in well so far. He has some experience working at a New Haven PD down in One Union for a couple of years, and then he left to go take care of some family members in New Jersey, and he has since returned to this area, so we hired him. I think we did a good hire with him. The other 2 are fitting in nicely, and the 4th and final one should be coming on board probably on or about our next meeting, probably the end of February. We're bringing them in little by little, so you can't train them all at once. As the chair mentioned, we're going to be doing a citizen police academy. We did this years ago, probably 20 years ago at least, and then we kind of went dormant. You'll see a lot of times other departments are doing it, and we're gonna bring it back to life, blow some air into it on or about the 1st of April. And I was going to mention perhaps the chair would show up on the first meeting.
I'll be there.
What we're going to do during that time is just give them an overview of the residents that choose to get involved in this, is to give them an overview of the police department on that day. And then what we'll do is we'll give them a little history, introduce ourselves, what we do, that kind of thing. And then we'll move on to in the follow-up classes, giving people an overview of our patrol division, and then, subsequent classes would be like ISD, our investigative services, special training that we have with the SWAT, the traffic division, the K-9s, something along that line. So we're looking at maybe a 6-week program. It's not in stone as far as what everything's going to be at this point, but that's our game plan.
I can tell you, I was a member of the class of the first police academy, civilian police academy. It was very informative and very well attended. It was a packed classroom, so I think it's great we're doing it again.
And then I think the other things that I have here would be for the executive session.
Any questions, anybody? Good. You're good? Make a motion, we adjourn to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
So we are back into a regular session, and do I have a motion to adjourn for the meeting of January 2020?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.